Chinese
Oh, the
red
Yeah,
button.
right.
Some
Yeah,
candy, like,
it's
red
startling, isn't it? Hey, Pat the Popper here. Got another episode of Cardboard Conversations. Tonight, I'm joined by both MTG Gaming Bob and Josh from Hometown TCG. How you doing, fellas?
Oh, fantastic, dude. Thanks for having us.
Absolute pleasure.
I can't wait to tear into Josh.
Oh, yeah, right. There you go.
I'm just kidding.
He's in for
Glad
it.
to have somebody on the show.
Yeah.
Listen,
It's fun.
I've done another podcast. It can't be nearly as bad as that, and I do that one weekly. So let's do it.
Yeah, let's dive right in. Now, why don't you go ahead?
Sure.
Everybody that's here already knows Bob and I, we're staples here. We do this every Saturday at 7. So most of the audience is more than familiar with us. Why don't you go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself and your channel?
Oh, okay. Well, my name is Josh. My channel is youtube.com/hometowntcg. I got my start TCG wise way back when playing Magic the Gathering. I've been playing Magic for the better part of I think it's been 2 decades now. If not, it's really close. And then I got into YouTube kind of about the same time everyone else did, early mid pandemic, where I was playing a game Flesh and Blood with one of my best friends.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And then I've since transitioned into my first love, Magic. I never let it go. And now that he quit the channel, I was like, I got to talk about the one thing that I know the most about and I love the most. So here I am. I'm not that interesting, which is probably not a great catchline for a YouTuber, I guess.
Oh no, you have a very polished show. I was catching up, doing my homework today, watching your shows, and I'll say that I'm envious of 2 things about your shows. Number one, they're very cohesive. It's not like a lot of these, Johnny, Susie, he, she, it, them, come lately shows where I'm like, what in the F is this even about?
Mm.
Your shows are concise. They lay out, your point very clearly. You emphasize it with mostly, like very well thought out facts, and it was very easy to digest. Additionally, your attitude, I envy that. I wish if people know me, that I'm like, I have the tact of a sandpaper covered sledgehammer, and you're very smooth and likable. So it was a pleasure to catch up on
You've got a very good presentation,
Yeah,
I think is what he's trying to say. Yeah.
Thank you. It's I do all of my shows, and again, I caught up on kind of some of your guys' previous podcasts and stuff. So like you guys, I do kind of talking points. I have topics that I want to discuss, but I think pure scripted content is no fun, and it's not what our community needs, right? You don't need me to write down a script, read you some story, and then cut the video. So I think we're gonna have a great time this evening. So we kind of see that, we see eye to eye there.
I hope so. And I just want to say, I give a shout out to one of the guys, just a tremendous figure in the community, Mr. Savannah Lion, in our audience tonight. So
Savannah Lion's in the chat. He's all over that. Savannah Lion's all over the place.
And he's, I've spoken with Savannah, I've had chats with Savannah Lion, like behind the scenes. He's just a genuinely good dude and deserves all the recognition that people can give him. He's a big supporter in the community, and kudos to him, and thank you for giving us your time, and everybody in chat and those watching this afterwards. And to you, Josh and Pat, I say it every episode. I think time is the most valuable thing any of us have, and I appreciate you guys giving me some of yours tonight. So thank you, everybody. Let's get started. Let's dig in.
For sure.
I was going to get a Flesh and Blood playmat, by the way, to kind of like, I wasn't going to tell you. I was just going to like, oh, hey, Flesh and like one of the
Hometown TCG
Blasmo Fet. No, I don't know. No,
Hometown TCG commissioned custom art and made Flesh and Blood playmats for patrons last year. So
so I was actually checking out MinMax Games earlier. They got some pretty solid pricing on that. And I honestly, one of my favorite things about their website, it's a small thing, it's a nitpick, but they round their numbers. So instead of like $119.99, it's $120. Because let's be real, that's always what the price is. Like let's cut through the butter right here and just get right to it. Yeah. It's just
especially
do the
like
that's what we're
Pat and I were looking at euros today, and it was like $5.99 euros. Yeah. I'm like, oh Jesus, really? I don't want to math. Why does it have to be hard? It's already hard enough.
Oh yeah, listen, math. I can be out on math, but if you'll look, I mean, MinMax, when stuff comes out that has a chance to jump in price, the complete bundle recently being a great example. MinMax did when they got their initial allocation, they sold them at $60. Then when Amazon pricing came out, and it was priced at Amazon, MinMax sold them at $80. There was no price jumps, nothing like that. The rest of their allocation that will be sold locally in store will be sold at $80. They're that kind of store, and that's why I love working with them so much. Like, it's that simple.
Nice. So do you have like a formal association with them?
Yeah, they sponsor some of the Magic content on the channel.
You.
Yeah.
We need
Oh,
sponsors.
doing this stuff.
They're
We need
fantastic people
sponsors
too.
looking at you, makeplayingcards.com.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
is this sponsored by something else? Hashtag not
no,
sponsored.
no.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is
Hashtag not
sponsored by-
sponsor, want to sponsor. So Bob and I are, well, actually a lot of us in our community are big fans of proxy cards. So, you know, crazy stuff like heroic intervention that's gonna look, you know, just a
That's
wild artwork like
wild.
that. You know, fabled passage, probably a better not green screened version. And the whole deck is gonna cost you $40. And you can't mistake them for real cards because I make sure to get all the backs looking like that. You
There
know,
you
just
go.
100%, you know, solid, good printing quality every time, you know, you get exactly what you're paying for. So, yeah, we're actually big proponents of the proxy scene because realistically, a lot of Magic cards, in my opinion, are trending downward. That seems to be the general thing with most new released Magic cards. So I personally find that since I don't do a lot of selling, trading of my cards as far as what I'm going to keep in decks, I get to a certain point. I like the way the decks are playing, the power levels that they're at. So I want to keep them just like that. So I find that buying proxy decks for me is a great way that I can interact with my local player community because it's so cheap. $38 for a deck. When you buy more, you actually get a price reduction even at that. So for me, I get to have more fun by playing more decks with more people.
Okay, I can be into that. Listen. I am not against proxies at all. Bob, are you on the proxy train as well? Do you prefer in a given scenario to proxy as many decks as possible, or are you a buy and wait for the real cards and fill them out type of player?
Oh, I'm definitely in support of proxies. As a matter of fact, that's what I was
Yeah.
flashing up here. I had to have, for our new Commander Raids format we were talking about, I had these, it's better to have these tokens. And so I had them make them up. Now, I'm I hate using me as an example for what people should be doing. And I hope that people understand that I'm not telling people what to do. I'm proxy friendly, if you want to put it that way. I had these made up as well from makeplayingcards.com when they first came out with the foil.
Oh, Savannah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what these are?
Yeah.
But they're also, look,
Oh,
double-sided.
Double-sided and
Right? So
foil.
5 of them will get
Yeah.
you a full set of these, and I gave them out as gifts. I sent some to Jake and Joel or Magic and some other people. I think I took some to Vegas. Yeah, I did take some to Vegas. But I don't believe in beating up high-value cards. Why? When you can get a 35-cent proxy to do exactly what it's meant to do. And I don't care if you have the real cards or not. Look, so many people make a big to-do about, and I was watching your shows, and it seems you're very excited about the pro scene and all that, and I get it. In that environment, that's
a great point.
I get that, fine, people can have an exception to proxies and whatnot, and that's fine for me. But then that really, kind of gets my goat. I really hate the reserve list because of the pro tour scene. If it wasn't for the pro tour scene, then I would care less about the reserve list and proxy away. But I think you're excluding people. I'll never play in a tournament. Hell, going to Vegas, I really learned because we got the Black Lotus VIP pass. We were in Vegas. We did the full Monty thing, and I just wish I hadn't played any tournaments. Because it was the time with the people that was the most special thing of going to Vegas for me. So I can't imagine I'm ever going to play in any kind of sanctioned tournament. I make my money at what I do professionally at 9 to 5.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Magic is not going to be this dream for me to become a professional player. So I don't care about the pro tour scene, if you will. Personally, it has no impact on me, and I would venture a guess that the pro tour has very little meaning to all these people that care about proxies. Right? Like most of them never play in a tournament. That fuss about people playing with proxies and whatnot. So, and the people playing with proxies are clearly not going to be playing in a tournament. So
yeah,
I don't care. I don't care. I care much more about getting people to sit down, shut up, and play.
Right. Yeah.
Get
Shuffle
together
up and play,
have
as the
some
professor
fun,
says.
Yeah. And let's stop worrying about the stock market ticker for the product and join us in a game. Join us on some spell table. Take a box, go crack it with some friends.
Right. A draft
that's
experience. Have that environment
I've
going
been playing
on.
since '94, so not consistently. Obviously, everybody's in and out, but my first experience was my very first pack was a Legends pack, and
that's cool.
I opened Stang. was not very cool. And I
That's
didn't know
still
anything.
cool.
It was
That's
it was
still
That must have
$10 for a pack
stang.
even
Yeah.
back then, and it was like, okay, but you could only buy one. It was in Japan. I was in Okinawa. I was stationed there, and it was a little tiny shop on Gate 2 Street, and so they only had a room for like maybe 4 boxes on the counter. And then the next thing I bought actually was Fallen Empires. So, yeah, and what a bad era for Magic. That was just bad. It was bad for like that whole stretch. For a while.
See, isn't that hilarious about Magic? I don't want to skip over the proxy conversation because I largely agree with actually much what you said. But
You
isn't
better.
it funny that we look back at that era of Magic, the legends and stuff like that, and we're like, God, what a bad era of Magic. And now someone who, like me, I started at the end of, what was it? Onslaught into Mirrodin. Mirrodin was the first
Okay, yeah.
real set when I was playing Magic. And oh my gosh, I still to this day just love that Magic set. Then Ravnica followed up. The Kamigawa block that was around that time was, I played Greater Gifts at it was a PTQ at the time. But it's funny how we take these eras of Magic that if you were around then, you're like, man, things weren't great. But if you weren't around then and all you have is that window into the past, you just look at it so fondly, like, oh, I wish I was around during the Legends times. And the people that are there, like, no, you don't. Like,
well, Legends was actually good, but
That's
that was like
interesting.
Legends was the tail end of a good set of blocks, right? I don't want to say set of blocks. It's a good around a good few sets. You had Alpha,
Sure.
Beta, Antiquities, Legends, Arabian Nights. Those were all very good sets for the day, right? But then, Fallen Empires came along, and it kind of, and you had Chronicles, and you had 4th edition come out, and it was all like in that, like, whoa, bad touch, stop it. And then it was just not good during that era. So I've seen Dark, but my favorite era by far was Urza Saga block. That was just phenomenal.
That would have been
it was baller. It was just as good. It was just as good as you imagine it would be. And I am all about them reprinting the entire block so that you can get a chance to like even just smush all 3 in the block.
Well, at this rate, they are just reprinting just about every single block. It's something Bob and I talked about recently with all the reprint sets, whether it be remasters or masters products from the vaults and secret layers. We're seeing just about every card available again and again, and in different versions too. So I don't know if this is one of the best times for a Magic the Gathering player or one of the worst times. We're having more availability and new cards at a higher rate as well. I mean, like we saw with Commander Masters, you brought it up in one of your videos, is that with the Commander decks, we're going to get 40 new cards. This is something totally new
today.
Listen,
I literally did just before the show. I just pre-ordered them.
I did the same. I got a sliver deck because I'm not going to pass up on 10 new slivers, up to 10 new slivers.
Yeah.
10
new cards, however many of them are slivers.
Myself, I'm thinking 5, maybe 6 slivers, and then you're going to get 2 sliver specific items and then maybe 2 or 3 tribal items, which is right up my alley. I play elf. I've got some other fun stuff that's going along with it, and it's 5 color. So there's so many great options. I mean, Gemhide Sliver and Mana Sliver are just so good. You can put those in other decks as just a standalone 1/1 for 1 in a green, and it's mana of any color. Just that. You can stick that in a lot of decks. A creature deck, boom. Yeah, this fits in Trelasar. Why not? That's helpful enough. So I'm looking forward to it. And as far as reprint set, I don't need any more of that action. I still have Dominator Remastered I have yet to open. I've got a collector and some draft of it. I want to do a draft. That seems like a real fun time. Yeah. I did it at my LGS, and everybody was rare drafting or doing the try hard attitude. Nah, I want to hang out, have some pizza with my buddies, rip wrappers, see Force of Will, all the tutors. Oh man, I've got to destroy your Sylvan library somehow. I want that kind of an experience with the product, but
no. See, let me give you a pro tip. When you go to your Dominaria Remastered draft, pro tip here for you. Ready? You rip 2 Enlightened Tutors and 3 copies of Juggernaut, and you play Azorius Weenie Tribal with Enlightened Tutor Juggernaut Bomb combo. That's your big hitter is Juggernaut. It's a terrible deck, but man, it's fun when you get to slam it off the top and scream, "I'm the Juggernaut" at your opponent multiple times in a game of Magic.
So Savannah, actually, yeah, the Commander product, both the sealed boxes and the decks have had intermittent availability. It seems as though the stock just can't be updated near quick enough, but I was able to get some pre-orders in off of Amazon, which is my preferred local gaming store, unfortunately, at this point. You know, as much as I like the guy down at my store, I can't afford to pay that extra 20% for his prices. I want to support him, but it's real difficult.
I if you don't mind, Josh, and since you're a guest, of course I'm gonna poke you. No, don't blow my face up.
Uh-oh.
I'll lift my shirt. But
Me too.
Let's not. You triggered me on one of the things that you opened with your Commander Masters. You said that now, I understand you used loose softball language. You said it could be the best-selling Magic set of all time. And where I start having,
and there's a link to the video if anybody's interested in the comment section,
because of the price point.
So
and I just can't imagine that it will sell amazing amounts at those price points, because I think it's going to be very hard to get your EV out of a box.
So the pricing for this set has come from stores essentially leaking distributors giving early access to anticipated pricing, right? And that's going to be the assumed price. And I think it's right. Most of these, when you're a store, you get distribution pricing. I think it's pretty on point. Some connections of mine in the industry have sent me screenshots, and that video and those facts and words made and published before that information came out. I then did a podcast with my buddy Louis over at Kitchen Table TCG that Friday, and I may have had to walk that take back, because I don't care what kind of value is in the box. $400 is going to price people out, even if the cards in the box are worth $500. There's an economic principle there where it's like you can't afford the upfront cost, so it doesn't matter the value of the item in the long term.
And I'm going to say that right now, that based on the spoilers of Jeweled Lotus being the biggest one, which is a rarity issue, it's not. Somebody's like, well, what about Mana Crypt? And I'm like, no, that's not. You're not talking apples to apples there, right? First off, there are so many decks. Any deck can use Mana Crypt anywhere. Like even if it wasn't banned, it would be useful in any deck in any format. Sorry, it just is. Jewel Lotus is limited to Commander only. You only need one of, and it's even limited in Commander where, for example, his Trelisar deck can't use it. There are many decks. There are many commanders, especially three different colored commanders that only have 3 mana that can't use it. Even 3 colored mana.
That's a really good point. And on that note as well, though, some decks, even though it could benefit my Sliver deck, I actually run Morophon as the commander. A little bit surprising, but it works really well. Now, the Mana Crypt, Mana Vault would be helpful in that. But if it were a traditional Sliver deck running one of the 5-color Wooburg Slivers, you're right. Jeweled Lotus would not be helpful, but neither would Mana Vault or Mana Crypt.
No, Mana Crypt can, because there are other things besides Slivers in the deck.
Yeah.
Right. So they're helping you cast things, whereas a Jeweled Lotus only casts the commander.
Yeah.
Right? And it's 3 of the same color. If you could, make it 3 different colors. I'm just saying that is the flagship card in this. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is going to drop significantly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's going to. There's just no two ways about that. And then the second biggest card they're showing is the Dragon. Again, a scarcity
traditional
issue.
Sliver,
like we saw what happened, with the Imperial Sea. And I'm not trying to poo-poo. I'm not trying. But let's be real. And these are the 2 big hitters that they dropped to create the buzz and the hype.
Yeah.
And at that price point, 30% higher than Double Masters. And when I look at Double Masters and I look at Commander Masters so far, if they stay on par with Commander Masters or Dominaria Remastered, by far Double Masters is a much better value for anybody getting in, period. There are just so many cards in there that are so necessary in many different decks that I think that it's price suppressed right now. $210 for the collector box, I think, is
Oh,
260 for the
wow.
draft box. Like, it's just not
Yeah.
even close to competitive. If I'm
Sure.
dropping $400 for a set box for Commander Masters, and I can pay $260 for a draft box of Double Masters 2022, there's no
I
competition
I
for
think
me.
that one of the
And that's
things
not even a
we are
value.
lacking at this point, though, is more information. I do agree that the two so far spoiled flagship cards, the Dragon and Jeweled Lotus, are both definitely going to take a price hit. That's standard enough for any release. Any of these cards will lose value pretty much out the gate. It's quite rare that you get more than 3% of cards that actually gain value. And it's usually just because people have never really seen them. Um, One of the big things that we need to see, though, is more of the set itself. If we will have a larger quantity of really valuable cards, whether it be price or play value, more sought after cards.
Mm,
But if we see stuff like the fetch lands again, it's just going to be a milestone of the last time those cards were above $10. If we
right.
see the triomes, it'll be a great place to reprint them in a commander product. Specifically, triomes are a hard place to reprint other places. It's a great place to put it, but it's also going to just tank their value. Smothering Tithe, oh man, it's a staple. Great place to put it. Terrible thing for the value of the card
Heuristic
itself.
study.
Yeah, and
Yep.
hey, what
I
up,
do have to
No,
see a
Maggie?
heuristic study here. There's a heuristic
and
study
here's
in
the
the set.
problem. Here's a problem with a Commander Master set versus a regular Master set, and that's that regular Master sets, they still have a lot of cards in them that are necessary by people that actually go to tournaments and can't proxy them. Most commanders, since there is no tournament scene, most commander pods are proxy friendly. There's
Hmm.
no tournament that you're violating rules from. So
Well,
not tournament
I think you
legal
hit the nail on
doesn't
the head
matter
there
in a
twice
format
now.
that's like Commander's not tournament legal, period. Like
Yeah.
it's not a tournament
Yeah.
legal format. So who gives a shit if it's a tournament legal card, right?
Hmm.
And you only need
Right.
one of most of these. Like how many do you really need
Yeah.
4 Dragons?
Well, so
No.
that's something I wanted to think. Okay, now when I go and I open up a Double Masters 22 draft box, if I get 4, 5, 6, 10 Shadowborn Apostles, cool, that's helpful. If I open up 5, 6, 10 Path to Exiles, 5 Generous Gifts, I don't need 10 Soul Rings. Now that's just a staple card that's absolutely going to be in here. How many arcane signets do I really need? So it will get to the point where people are opening up, very staple cards, and it will just decimate the value. And this will ring for a very long time too. When we look at commander decks a year from now, okay, some of the staple cards that they would put in, Exotic Orchard, Fable Passage, those cards are now going to be pennies on the dollar. So the
Right.
value of a deck that they'll be charging $50 or $60 for out the gate will have under $40 of value.
So you hit the nail on the head there, right? With Commander being unique, and I actually have a little bit of experience with this, playing Flesh and Blood and kind of getting my start in the YouTube channel there. How that works is a lot of your cards are very it's called a hero. It's the center kind of focus of your deck, and they're specifically for that deck. There are very few cards that play, generically outside of multiple decks. And with this set being so wide, remember Jeweled Lotus. The Jeweled Lotus that we saw, the regular version, not the extended art, is in the, I think, low to mid 300s as far as card number. So if they're doing traditional card ordering where artifacts, are last and then, or artifacts before lands, and then things are alphabetical, this is a huge set. It's massive. So when you open these boxes, you're going to open, if you open more than one, you're going to start to open a lot of chaff as a commander player, right? Your second copy of Dragon, your second copy of Jeweled Lotus, right? These things are going to become trade fodder. And if the commander market is now suddenly flooded with your trade fodder, what happens to not only those singles, but the product they come out of? And more importantly, when a store has to have the investment of $320 to $340 or whatever it is, again, allegedly for that box. What happens to the stores that don't necessarily manage that in the best way? They're used to something, it's got the Commander label on it, we can buy it, we can slap it on our shelves, it will sell. Between pricing people out and then being for a singleton product, I think it's going to be a little touch and go.
You realize you just popped my balloon on my argument with you that I was questioning your statement about it being the best selling set of all time. I'm like, well, shit, you just kind of made my point for me.
Well, listen, again, I much like everything else.
Oh my goodness,
the content as the news drop.
Yeah, it's
but when I get new information, I change my opinion. I'm not stuck in a rut.
Oh,
well, but you have to. Damn it, get off my lawn, you damn kids.
Yeah. Right.
Now, listen. I say that to say this. I openly accept that Commander is by far the most popular way to play our game. I do think people underestimate the number of people that play casually and for fun and go to their Friday Night Magic every week and have pods that play Pioneer, Modern, Pauper, of that, things of that nature. I think the community underestimates that. But the Commander community is so big, this could still be the best-selling set regardless of the price point. Like, that's still on the table. Like, how many people do you think play Commander? How many people do you think play Commander?
Oh no, I'm all well. That's only because they haven't played Commander Raids yet. I mean, as soon as that becomes,
that's true. That's true.
I like that. We win. I like that.
We win.
You're so slick. You know what? I'm gonna grab the Discord link. I'll throw that in there.
No, I agree that there's a much larger buying public, but you have a very different type of customer. They are far more casual, meaning there's no impetus to buy the cards now. Got to have 4 of, got to get these to be in the next, qualifier, blah, 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 blah. That's not the crowd that you're looking at.
That's not how everyone plays formats that aren't Commander. That's not how
I understand that. That's what I'm saying is that, the other formats, people get that fevered pitch because, got to have it now. Commander players are far more patient.
Some Commander players.
Yeah. I was just, I'm with you there, Josh. I'm going to say some Commanders are like,
okay, all right.
Some of the guys down in my LGS, the try hard attitude. You can just smell the sweat in their neck beard.
Here's the poll I'm going to give you both that I gave on Thursday's roundtable. How many of you, and you can answer in the audience as well, how many set boxes of Commander Masters are you planning to buy for yourself? So I'm talking about for your show or to crack for your channel. I'm talking about for yourself. How many are you planning to purchase at $420 a box?
I don't really box opening on my channel all because it's I'm not a good box opener. I suck at it.
We have box openers in the channel that watch all the time. So
yeah, you have to be like a good storyteller. You have to have that voice. You know what I mean? So you actually opened my eyes to something just now, and I think I don't want to say save this set, but will be an outlet. Will be a way for people to get in financially. It brings me back to being at the LGS and being broke and working a job for $5 an hour. You would buy a box to get the discount, but you'd split it with a friend. Well, with Commander being singleton and you only needing one copy of everything that comes out of that box where we're going to expect duplicates, I think we see a good portion of our community splitting these boxes with friends. I mean, set boxes are what? 5 rares or is it's 4 plus rares a pack, 5 borderless cards, 2 of rares, and a guaranteed foil. I bet you get 2 or 3 people to go in on a box, and then at the end divvy up
at $400 a piece, 30 packs. That comes to 13 and change for the set boxes. So, you might be able to see those down at your store, or if you're selling them off, if you get a box and you sell those at $20 a piece, that's $600 in value. So for a channel, that might actually be an interesting way to get people in. I could see box opening channels, which I subscribe to. I like to do that, support the community and not have to put the whole value on my shoulder. Yeah, we pay a bit of a premium, but Twiddler is doing great stuff on his channel, and thank you for doing it.
I'm just going to disagree. I'm going to agree with Savannah Lyons. I think there's going to be a lot of products sitting on shelves because they're forced to buy it with a bad distribution model that they have for LGSs currently. I think it'll be far less cracked than what you think. $400 is a tough price. I mean, you're talking, I have to choose between a box where I might get something I want, maybe get nothing at all, and I could definitely get a Tundra.
Yeah,
for the
right.
same price.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
That's a good point. For that price
Yeah.
value,
For
you
a
can be
commander,
sure you're getting
I could
something.
maybe get something, or I could definitely get a dual land I need.
I've been having that same argument with myself, and not over the commander product, but I've been all in. I love the serialized cards from the Brothers War, and every time I negotiate a price and buy one, I think, what could I have bought? And all the different revised duels go through my mind, and now that I've got, I'm in the double digits of, number of these things, I'm like, well, what could I have just bought for the whole total? So I think there will be an element of that, especially with commander players, that, if you don't have your dual lands filled out and things of that nature, you're gonna go, I can buy this box, or I pick up, one or two HP dual lands.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly. When Bob and I were talking about Commander Masters, phenomenal looking product. It's got a lot of stuff behind the scenes. If it were a different price point, that would be something completely different.
Yeah.
Now, the timing of it, something I've learned a lot in philosophy and motivation, is for everything you say no to, you are able to say yes to something else. Now, by not spending $400 on a box of Commander Masters, I'm instead going to Gen Con 2023 in Indianapolis, the largest 4 days of gaming in the world. Now, that experience with an extra $350 is going to be something wholly, with a WH, different. Now, that type of an experience versus disappointment of pack after pack in Magic the Gathering gambling, I'm not there anymore. I'm not that person in my life.
based on your conversation right now, I just want to trigger pause in the audience and say, Commander Legends Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
I think it's the only time I've ever seen him cry. Well, that's not true. About Magic cards.
Yeah.
I don't. I think at that.
So
Sorry.
we did
I
a
think I'm just gonna say at that
9-channel
price
box
point,
opening. Yeah.
I'm very much going to be watching your show, and I'll be looking forward to you eating your words that it didn't sell as well as you thought it did. I'm just kidding. But
Listen, like I said, I'm okay with being wrong. I've never been shy about that.
I'm never wrong.
Oh,
But,
God, how long have you been on the internet?
But it's just I find at that price point, the higher the price point you make for any product, right, the harder, especially in aggregate, right? You'll have one or two boxes that meet that value,
Sure,
but they have so much farther to fall. There's
Well,
so much
and
more
that
you
seems
can
to be
have
one of the
because
things
they
that they
have
don't
to fill it with
understand.
chaff.
It
Like
is
if they
so
fill
there's
if every rare is $10 or higher in the entire set, I'll eat my words. But that's
yeah,
not how
right.
they've done
that
any
can't
product.
that can't happen, right?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Like they
like
can't.
at some
So
point, sooner or later, every box just gets opened then.
Yeah, right.
right.
You'll hit arbitrage and you just can't have that.
But and that's what's going to happen. Well, not only that, you'll drive the price point down, right? Because Wizards doesn't set the price of cards. We do. Right?
Yeah.
People miss that fact, right?
Mm,
So
mm.
you will have arbitrage, which what it means is that like you're going to get this leveling out somewhere that at the time of opening, because Rudy's right with his alligator graph that over time things get more expensive, and that's because they're no longer available. They're no longer in print, right?
Yeah.
That people you disassociate the value of the cards in the box versus the value of the box because the sealed box itself becomes the rare commodity because it is sealed, and you're buying Schrodinger's pack that you don't know what's in there. Every pack has a Black Lotus until you open
Until
it.
you open it. Yeah.
And that's why older products tend to age better, and the more they're open, the more valuable those other ones get. So it's I love watching idiots, crack box after box after box chasing one card. Cool, do that, please, because the boxes that I have just became all right. Cha-ching, more valuable. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. As
it's
people
just
open
simple.
it, the supply of a done product is that much more valuable. But that's also my caveat to that is Commander Legends and my anticipation, sadly, for Ikoria. With Commander Legends, I can almost guarantee you the expected value of opening a box is going to be way lower. Now that your chase card, your $100 plus card of Commander Legends, the card you really want to get, Jeweled Lotus, when that goes to a $43 card, what's that going to do to your box value?
Oh yeah, don't kid yourself. It's going to see
Yeah.
those kind of declines. The regular version of it, especially since you have 3 versions of it coming out in this set.
And
Oof.
my thought on that is with more and more reprint products, what's this going to do to Dominaria Remastered? Like, what's this going to do to Double Masters 22 box value? if cards are reprinted out of those like a year and a half later. Yeah, like that, Bob. Like,
That
what's the
Joker,
value?
I already
Like,
know that's this is
yeah,
going to lose value, folks, even sealed because of
yeah.
what they're doing.
So I think
Do you
that,
not know what that is,
you know,
Oh
Josh?
no, I'm well aware of what that is. I'm
Oh,
trying to
okay.
yeah,
think
I don't
of
know. You look
he's
inquisitive.
just
Like
he's
it's
mulling
no,
over
expanded.
no.
Like
the
here's
Your
idea.
one.
statement of I guarantee it loses value even sealed.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
I don't know if I agree with that. I
No
think
doubt.
there's
I'll
I
put a
think
bet on it.
there's the people that are in the market for that product already probably would either want to own the sealed one, or there's some luster to chasing after the first Jeweled Lotus, right? The original printing. And I
That'll
think
be
there's something to
years
be
down
said
the
there.
road. That'll be years down the road. I agree with that, but that's any sealed, right? I believe that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
case
yeah.
with any sealed, right? So all products, yes. That caveat aside, but I'm saying in the interim and for a long time, and every time they print the chase card in it, yes, the value is going to drop.
I'd
It'll
agree
creep
with
back
you.
up,
So
but
with
it'll drop.
Commander Legends Collector Booster Box, their movement since last month, almost a 5% loss, and now since last week, another percent, 0.5% since yesterday. Looking over this is not a very great looking product. I mean, our market value just continues to go down, and the average is probably popping up because I think people are going to be liquidating their supply.
Well, you see a lot more. I looked. You'll see a lot more available on TCG. There was a long time it went and it only had like 15, 20 boxes available, and now there's more. And that's just,
Although since yesterday, we are seeing an average movement with the sales of it. So I think that does
yeah,
show
because it went down in
that people
price.
are, yeah, exactly. We're seeing more movement because the market is lower. So
Yeah.
buy on
So
TCG player right now, 474. What's this actually going to work out to be? Oh, geez, this is not a very nice looking trend.
no.
Yeah. Oh, 450. Yeah, people are getting these at a pretty low price comparatively.
So all I'm saying
And
is that and it's going to continue. I think, and we
Interesting.
haven't even released yet. We haven't even spoiled the set yet, right? And if we hit some
Right.
more hits that are in there, like Jessica's Will, those kind of things, the bigger dogs in there, which they're going to chase after.
And I think Pause,
Takashima, 1,000 Faces.
offhandedly, he makes a really good
Strastios.
comment here. Now, with the price on a lot of these products, you don't get really quality cards. And I don't mean as far as play value or anything that. I mean cards that are flat. Like, I've had some cards I can't put in decks because they are so curled. It looks like a marked card. Now, if you're paying hundreds of dollars for a product, some of these cards, okay, cool. You want to get an Elish Norn in a fancy foiling, $70, okay? And you can't really use it unless it's your commander, because if it's in your deck, it pops everything up and everybody knows which one it is. I don't want
right.
a damaged card.
I've
So-
got a stack here on the desk from I opened a box of collector box of Phyrexia All Obi-Wan, and I don't know if you'll be able to see on the camera. These are the Phyrexian. These are the Phyrexian foils, which we admit are a part of that different card stock, right? So that might have something to do there. They're kind of a little thicker card, and the random foils actually aren't that bad either. So while I think what you said, it's a great take. You wonder if hey, if we can keep something like this. They've been on the desk for since the set was released. They've been sitting here out in the open in my basement. So I don't know, man. I'm not here saying Wizards solved the curling problem. I'm saying
No, I'd
this
love
looks a
for it
lot
to
better
be.
than it used to.
Yeah,
So
that's great. I mean, that's what we're looking for. And they've done a really good job with some of their specialty foilings. With the foil etch cards, number one, I think the large majority of those are the premier product out of Double Masters 22 and most of the Commander Legends line. As much as I dislike the cards in Adventures in Forgotten Realms, Commander Legends 2 Electric Boogaloo, their foil etching looks really good. Their cards stay flat, and it seems to be a very premium product. I'm pleased with that.
Is where it's at.
Yeah, so I'm not going to say that absolutely everything is terrible from them. I think that it is a mixed bag, and people need to temper their expectations and need to be very critical in their thinking about what products they're going to buy and what's in them.
Yep.
That's one of the things that, as far as what you're going to get in Commander Masters, all of the main set will be reprints. None of those are new cards, not in the sealed product portion of it, only in the commander decks. You're going to get about 10% new cards in each one of those. So I'm cool with that. That's where I'm looking at. But for spending hundreds of dollars where I could just get an older version that's probably going to be cheaper, or piecemeal it, just buy the singles. What the heck is going on, people?
Well, and that's really what, when the more they start pushing up the box prices, at least for my part, the more my advice is go get the singles. Like, why spend $400 on a product that you might hit out of a pack that's, retail value of $13.95 or whatever, to hit the one card that you want that's $150 card, and then even the rest of them that you think are worth something, because there's a lot of videos out there between, like, you actually pay $420 plus shipping, or tax for your box, right? That's what your price is. But then when you go to sell them, even if you said you got $500 in value out of that box, by the time you pay fees, shipping, taxes, you don't have $500 in cards. People generally don't even pay the highest retail. That's what that race to the bottom is all about. So you might say that you got $500 worth of cards, but then when you try to liquidate, just like Moxman has shown and other people, you don't have $500 in value. Rudy will tell you, if you think your collection's worth $10,000, because that's what it tells you on Dawn Glare or TCG Player, he's going to offer you, $5,000, $4,000, right? Because that's what's realistically what your collection is worth, which means the cards are worth much less than what people think they're actually worth. But you actually pay the retail price for the box.
Sure, at a large scale, yeah. If you're selling a $10,000 collection, right? At something $500, you could piecemeal that out over the course of a week and get full value for everything. So you're not taking the large lump sum or buy list price of 60% or 70% or whatever it is people paying. But you're absolutely right on, if you're piecemealing out into a singleton format. Like if your whole goal is, hey, I'm gonna buy Commander product, I'm going to start my TCG Player store, and I'm going to sell singles. Well, you're selling singles to an audience that generally buys one of. The benefit you don't have is someone's not going to buy 4 copies, give you one lump sum, and let you ship things once. It's going to be, infinitely more work, and it's going to cost you infinitely more in shipping and products to do the shipping. So that's a great point. This set is weird. Printing products into Commander. Commander products are weird because of the singleton nature of the format. It's always, it really just breaks the rest of the rules in the market when it comes to traditional Magic the Gathering product.
Right.
I think Savannah Alliance says a great point here if you want to bring that up. Amen. 100%,
more than 100%. Yeah. Like, especially at that price tag too. At $400, you can probably buy the top 10 cards, which you can never pull from one box. Number one, yes. Totally true. You're not going to get the top 10 rares or mythics that you're really aching to get. That's just not how it works. So, and for that price tag, do the division there. That's about $40 a card. That's a more than fair price tag on what's going to be the 10 sought after cards out of the set, in my opinion. If we're looking at the Ur-Dragon and Jeweled Lotus at about $80 to $100 price tag, which is I think, targeted reprint value for the really top 10 or 20 cards out of this set. Like we said, Josh, and I think you made a good point of it, this is going to be a very large set. And with the different versions, we've got 2 borderless versions. Okay, you've got your standard borderless, and then you've got your breakout borderless frames as well. You've got your foil of both of those. Okay, cool. So you're getting a lot of different iterations with this. So I just am really worried about how many of these we're going to get.
I did, right? Yeah. Well,
I blinked and you were gone.
My mom called and I used my phone for my camera, so it stopped, and that's why I was like, you guys are like, wow, Bob's really still and not saying anything.
I was so focused on thinking what Pat, and then I looked back at the screen. You were gone. Sorry, Pat. I didn't mean to throw you
you're
off
fine.
There.
No, I did the same thing. But so the top 10, 20 cards, we're going to get Edgar Markov, I think, is going to be one of the cards we see printed in this. Ur-Dragon is the same Eminence mechanic, so I don't see why that isn't a great reprint, specifically sniping out on Commanders. So that card's going to probably go down half price. So you're seeing $40, $50 maximum for those top cards. So
Right.
I think really $400 for the top 10 cards out of the box, that seems a very fair price.
Yeah, and that's I hate to say it, but when they're lower box price, you have at least a reasonable chance of getting closer to EV. The higher the box price, because of the random chances, just like with M30, and I actually like M30. I'm like one of the few that likes M30. But
He is.
I'll say this: I think it's a product that should never be opened. Right? Like,
Mm,
just chances are you're not going to get $1,000 worth of cards out of 70% of the boxes. You're going to have one or two fools that hit the lottery and get
Yeah.
$2,000 in
And then have to
value
try
in
and
cards out
sell
of it.
that at a loss, because that's just how sales work. If you
But
want to sell
it was
something,
like,
it's $10,
I'm
10%
just gonna.
less.
I
Yeah.
don't like dragging other content creators down the drain, but just like when Joey Moss opened the
Unless it's the Magic
revised box.
Historian. Yeah.
No,
I
I'm
don't mind
sorry, Joey
dragging it.
Moss, when he opened a box of revised and took a $13,000 box and turned it into $1,100 for his patrons really quick. It
Yeah.
wasn't even his money that he lost.
Well, so by opening a sealed box, you
And
lose the
they didn't
value
get
of
the
that.
pleasure of
Sure.
opening it either, right? They got the pleasure of their person they're supporting opening it for them. And I'm not bashing him. Look, if that's what people want to do with your money, hey, my dad told me early on, a fool and his money are soon parted. And
No.
cool, you let somebody else open a once in a lifetime pack for you for his channel. Look, opening that stuff, what it says to me is the higher the cost of something, the much greater the risk is that you're not going to get a return. Period.
I mean, that's totally fair. But I think what we often skip is like the experience. I had my eyes open to this because my take was always like, I don't know, man. I was like, I can't.
We don't skip that here. We talk about it all the time, but open the product for the reason that it was designed, like Jumpstart. It just boggles my mind that all these people cracking Jumpstart after Jumpstart, but they're not smacking two packs together and playing it, right? They're just cracking it for the value.
Yeah.
Same thing with all these pack opening channels, and all they're doing is crack a pack after pack after pack after pack, but they're not drafting it, and that's why I hate set boxes. There's no purpose to a set box for me.
Well, the purpose of the set box is just those people that like cracking packs. And this is something I miss. There's a large portion of our community that's like, I like to sit down at the end of an evening and crack packs open. And I don't really follow the value
stuff.
Like, and listen, I don't see it that way. I see exactly what we've been talking about. I spent $400 on this box. I open it. I make it a point to take and read every card because I'm like, I spent money for this experience. And then I go to TCG Player and say, hey, how'd I do? Like, I'm part of that group. There is people that are outside of that group. I don't understand how they operate. I don't understand how that part of the brain works. I think that's wrong. But like, there are people that are going to crack this box and just have a good time, regardless of what they pull in it. I think they're crazy, but hey, they're going to do it.
I think you're going to find far more that crack it and have the Baldur's Gate experience we just had.
That's
Did you watch? Did you watch the round table when there was 9 of us opening box? I had a one mythic box. There was one mythic, and the total for the box was $21 in retail.
I think you did that with was Kitchen Table TCG involved in that one?
Yeah.
He's a good friend of mine. He told me about that. He goes, it was rough, and I told him I opened one.
Made Paws cry. It's the first time I've ever seen Paws negative about opening Magic product. He's like, I don't like this. Make it stop, mommy. And
I opened one collector box. I think I did it on video. I think I made a video about it. I'll have to go try to find it and send it to you guys. And I think I got 3 ancient copper dragons.
Oh, wow.
It's a really absurd example with Baldur's Gate that you have that kind of disparity. Most aren't quite that disparate, but the higher price the box is, the closer you get to that experience. Even if you hit some of the good hits, you got to hit at $400. At $400, you're going to have to hit
a lot of them.
A lot of good ones. Like, every box is going to have to be a banger.
As far as Commander Masters.
Yep. And then if it is, guess what's going to happen? If you're hitting lots of bangers and box after box after box after box, like, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to end up happening ultimately to Elish Norn? Like, there's so many of them getting pulled.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. Same thing with the tutors. It's like every box, tutor.
Well, it seems to be one of those things where we are now seeing such a prolific reprinting of staple cards that all of them can just be bought, played with, however you get your hands on them. If you open up a box of Dominaria Remastered, you're going to get a whole handful of tutors. I think in the box we opened, we had 5 or 6 of them. Okay, cool. Now we can play with all of these. All of them are so cheap now. Mystical Tutor, I think, was less than $10. Phenomenal card, really great. Okay, cool. So
I love your
everybody can
pause.
get a Sylvan library. I think that's just the burning down the house of the CEOs and CFOs of Wizards
Yeah.
of the Coast at this point is they're going to the well of reprints over and over and over because it has worked so many times.
Well,
And it's
three
just slowly
reprint sets,
poisoning the well.
3 reprint sets in a 12-month span is just, it's absurd. I mean, it's going to absolutely obliterate card
Is it
values, and
12,
nobody wants
18
their
months
cards to be
maybe?
obliterated in,
Yeah.
less than 2 years.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think I said this in a video in the past. I want to make sure I don't contradict myself because listen, again, there's a lot going on, but the idea of constant reprint sets and remastered sets is a concept that works for now, but it can't continue because been a big point of mine is we don't have the emotional attachments to sets we used to. We don't get to spend as much time with Phyrexia All Will Be One as we got to spend with Mirrodin, as we got to spend with the original Kamigawa block, right?
Yeah.
We don't get that time to either draw ourselves into the set or find cards we hate about the set that make us laugh with our friends. And because of that reason, it's going to be tough to one day down the road, not even thinking the removal of the block structure, but down the road, see things like Time Spiral and Dominaria Remastered do as well, right? Because we're not going to have that attachment to be like, I want to revisit this time in my Magic life.
So
Now,
here's some inside
yeah.
info about the block structure. Sorry, just because I'm old and I forget. I don't mean to cut you off, Pat.
Yeah.
Because you touched on that.
I did.
And I thought, that was a fairly universal thing, that most people were very pro block sets. Like I haven't seen the audiences anywhere or in Discords people saying, nah, block structure sucked. I hate that. Don't return to it. But when I sat down and talked with Mark Rosewater for like 3 hours, I brought up the block, that, hey, people like the block structure. And we already knew that they were coming up with this sort of return to the block with the Phyrexian thing. And I was asking him about kind of like future stuff, and he's like, I can't tell you too much. But what he did say is, no, blocks don't do well. With that's an anomaly, and that what he told me is that the way that the selling habit works is that the first set in a block does amazing, the second set in a block does okay, and by the time you get to the third set in a block, it just tanks. And so they're not fun, like straight from the horse's mouth. And sorry, Mark, if that was one of the things I said I wouldn't say, but
But I lied. So did you.
That's the kind of content you'd expect around here. Inside WotC League.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
But he said that that essentially, and I don't remember. It was so many words in such a short period of time, and I'm too old. That essentially don't hang your hat 100%. On the thought that they might return to blocks, because that did not seem like a thing. Well, he wasn't even saying that he didn't like it. It was just saying that this is what they see in the metrics. And he clearly told me that they let metrics drive their decisions. It's not an emotional thing or outcry from the internet.
I wanted to touch on that a little bit. Is with people not having time to enjoy sets because of the rapid fire rate that they're coming out. Sometimes people look back at other sets that have gone by with a real nostalgic eye. So something Wizards of the Coast has now decided to do is reprint some newer cards in old frames, like we're seeing with Ragavan. So we're seeing that, as I'll share here on screen in just a moment. We're seeing a new version of a card in an old frame. So we're getting an invention looking card here. Now, this is just wild.
I got corrected. It's not an invention card because it's not foil. Whatever.
Well, the filigree of the framework is just close enough that this is hitting those nostalgia points. And I think that's exactly the reason they're doing this.
Did you use the word filigree?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't belong here. This is far too intelligent of a podcast.
I'm sorry.
This is far too intelligent of a podcast for me. Thanks,
don't be scared. Don't be scared. We use lowbrow words too.
Good Lord, that was amazing. What an absolute banger. 10 out of 10. No, listen, Ragavan in this frame is
it's better than this. It's better
that
than
was
this.
$10,000.
Yeah, that's what I would understand. $10,000. They can
listen,
keep it
me
for that
monkey
price.
is money.
And it's in stock.
Me monkey is money. Okay.
There's 32 in the world and they're in stock. That's impressive.
Someone bought their plane ticket back home with that bad boy.
I think it's that you can buy just about anything from a Russian eBay site. So since
Hey,
there's so few,
you
you
can buy
know.
any card from Make Playing Cards.
Oh, that's actually a really good point.
You like a
For the
bell every
value
time
of
we
it.
mention them. Ding.
Yeah. Oh God, I wish.
They
Not
were,
a
I
sponsor,
even
want a
sent them a
sponsor.
query, and they're like, "No, suck it."
Have you guys reached out to them about sponsoring?
We reached out to everybody. We're not afraid. We're not scared.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean,
I've
that's
reached out to the professor. I've reached out to. I really don't want to talk.
well,
to
I
anybody.
mean, yeah, I don't know if you caught it, but that's how we had Gavin Duggan on, one of
We
the
ain't scared. Yeah.
co-creators of Commander.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, he's an awesome dude. I got to play with him in
Yeah.
Vegas.
Yeah, oh,
That
yeah,
dude's
we've played with
fucking
him a
baller.
couple of times, actually. He's in our Discord for Commander Raids.
He's a good
Yeah.
dude.
That is
So
sweet.
it's one of those things, like, I'm
Super
not
smart, dude.
religious
He
by
makes you feel
any
dumb.
stretch, but it says in the Bible, knocking doors open, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you got on the podcast tonight. Is I sent you an email. It was like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? And
And thank
that's
you
how
for coming on,
friendships
by the way.
start, you know?
Oh, of course. Listen, someone was like, "Hey, do you want to talk about Magic?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah, right.
I like
that's
talking about Magic so much.
what
I made
I
a whole
do.
stupid
Yeah.
YouTube
Amen,
channel.
brother. I mean, it's how we got
So-
Nikachu on here. You know, it's
Yeah, yep.
it's
His
just-
so I okay.
What a good dude.
You
Love
got Nick.
Nikachu.
Do you have any open conversation or line of communication with Nikachu currently?
I
Yes.
mean, yeah.
I talk to him from time to time. Oh, did
I
you
owe
see the
that-
deck box I made for him or had made for him? Holy
Oh,
no.
yeah.
While you pull that up, let me know. But I got to tell you, I owe that man an apology.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
I love Nikachu's content. And when I was making Flesh and Blood content, I was like, oh man, I want to do a stream like in the mornings. So I stole his stream for Coffee and MTG and did Coffee and Fab. I
Yeah.
was like, Nikachu does this and it does great. It's so fun. I'm doing this. And I just totally ripped it.
Did you watch the Nikachu? I don't know if he said it on the stream here, but no, he wouldn't. He actually probably wouldn't hold that against you because
If anything,
did he
he'd
say
like
on
it.
stream about.
Yeah.
I don't because like we talked him for what 2 hours off stream, so it's
Oh, yeah.
muddled in here. But he basically said he's the one that said there's room for everybody, right?
Yes.
He's not scared of competition.
I
No,
know. I just thought it was
that's actually-
funny. I was like, he'll
I was
never
gonna-
know who
yeah.
I am. I'm going to rip his content.
No, I was actually going to say, Bob, if anything, quite the opposite is that he thrives on competition. He was a professional chess player for years. That's
And
how
for
he
Pokemon.
got by. And that's in a way what he does now is he sees YouTube and I love this side of him in somewhat of a competition way where
Sure.
there are an infinite amount of dollars to get, but I can gauge mine by subscribers, view hours, my revenue. So it is in a way a competition. And by getting better as a creator, as a producer, as a content consumer as well, watching videos and not just saying, oh man, I like Mr. Beast, that guy's funny. Figure out how he's doing his cuts.
Right.
Figure out his bright colors, his thumbnails. What's he doing? That's something Nikachu thrives on. He absolutely loves that.
Oh,
And by indulging him with competition, man, that's what he's looking for. What up, Cards and Review?
Hold on.
There's something
Don't
to do
share
that.
that
I'm
one.
sure you guys know that YouTube's addicting, man. Picking these little things and trying to get better at them. Jake and Joel, our Magic, deserve a shout out here. They actually helped me as I pivoted into the Magic space, really fix my thumbnails and my titling coming from a community that was smaller. So anyone in that community clicked on all of my videos.
Now,
because it's a
something I
smaller
think
niche
that
community.
might help
can you
you
share
out.
that?
I see a huge variety of product behind you there. I think, oh, wow.
Oh,
that
here it
really
is.
Nice.
So hold on, yeah, and that's the back side of it.
Oh, yeah.
He
Now
told
this
me
is the box you made for Nikachu.
I didn't make it. I had a very
Had it.
talented friend of mine. I commissioned him to make it. And hold on, I'll share the front side of the box here, just because I'm old and I can't figure out tech. But what's funny, and I have a small story about this because I gave it to him in Vegas. And we were so jammed for time. We were literally like in the VIP room with Mark Rosewater, run out. And I'm like, I got to get Nikachu because I found him. He's texting me back. I got to get him his deck box. And it was literally 5 minutes before he was going to draft the beta. I don't know if you know, he made it into the top 8 for the beta draft in Vegas.
That's
not
awesome.
surprising.
I was literally like, dude, here's your box. I know you got to go. I got to go because we got to go get Commander thing. And you got the beta draft. And it was a shame because I mean he's just such an like I'm lucky. I get to surround myself with people that are so much better than me. Just like you're an affable guy, Pat's an affable guy, Nikachu, super
Yeah,
affable guy.
I'm more of a
I'm
laughable guy.
like
Yeah,
following
same.
sandpaper salt, like I'm a tough cup of tea. But I had this made for him because he was gracious enough to be on our show, and I kind of man crushed on him, and it's like I had this deck box made for Nikachu.
Listen, as far as content creators go in the Magic space, that's a quality man crush. That's a good.
Yeah, right.
You have
Yeah.
good taste.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Well, I wish I had the skill that my buddy that made that has. Like he also made me a Nicol Bolas statue. I have that too if you want to see it. It's dope as shit. He printed it.
Like
if
TCG
you see
players, man, we all want to be creative. All this deck building juices going on.
Yeah.
And again, I'm a coder. That's what I do for a living. But man,
Oh, really?
Building something with my hands, keep me out. Keep me out.
I'm a software developer.
Nice, very cool.
What do you program in?
I'm a .NET guy.
Oh, I'm a Bash and SQL guy.
Oh, okay. Listen, that makes
reporting.
sense. You started playing Magic when it came out, so.
Oh, geez, dag, bro. Yeah.
So this is a world first. I intended to do a video. Like he had all the pieces, and I have all the video and the parts and pieces. The same guy that made that box made this statue for me. And it is absolutely insane. Like the details. That is a leather bandolier around his neck that he did. Like I want to zoom in and like give it like the real full Monty of this because it's just ungodly the talent that guy has. Here's like I want to show you the sash because he like custom did this, and that band is only like maybe a 1/4 inch wide.
Yeah.
Wild.
But the dude is he's just insane, out of control, talented guy. And let me show. Oh, come on, I got to stop. This is so. I wish this was less janky that I could share.
That's awesome.
Easier. So like just the level of detail they give it to you can like see it here. Yeah. Like he like hand painted that tiny script all the way down the leather that he custom made for that. And this model was 3D printed in like 40 different pieces that he did. And what an amazing, I was so lucky. I'm surrounded. He's coming over tomorrow, as a matter of fact, to help me build my Imperial Star Destroyer.
That's pretty sweet.
But at any rate, sorry, I got off all tangents.
Yeah, no, listen, I suck at keeping us on track on podcasts too. Anyway, Pat, drive the ship. What are you doing?
Yeah, well, that's we actually have like only 2 points left on our list here. I've been getting us there. So,
oh wait, we have a list. Oh,
yeah. So actually, one of the things, Bob, you bring up a Star Destroyer, something that we've seen a lot with.
I took new pictures.
I mean, well, this is just a good transition. Just slow your roll.
Sure.
So the whole point is bringing up Star Wars. They've done a lot of cross-promotional advertisements. Now, a great example of that is how you can get slushies with a Star Wars figure on it. You can see Jar Jar Binks on your popcorn tins. Now, Magic the Gathering, it seems, is also expanding with their branding as well. Not just with their love sacks, but also Hot Pockets. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not both whales and Slumdog Millionaires, but I think that this is the beginning, as we see with a lot of how Wizards is changing their marketing in general, that as we see this expansion into other media, whether it be food, lounge items, you might see Magic the Gathering themed controllers for an Xbox. You might see a Magic the Gathering mouse and keyboard combo. Something like that, and I wouldn't be terribly surprised for it. Why wouldn't you have a keyboard where instead of the Windows key, it's a Planeswalker symbol, or you have your backspace is actually the swamp, something like that idea. I don't see why this isn't a decent enough realm for them to get some of their monetization scheme in that way. Wizards of the Coast has been very forward, saying that they want to make more out of all of their IPs. Now, Dungeons and Dragons, with their OGL pushback, might not be going so well. Now, they have a terrible way to make money in D&D. Figurines that, as Bob's shown off, with 3D printing, you can make for a fraction of the price. If someone has ever scanned a copy of a D&D player's handbook, everybody in the world has it for free if they've got the internet. And if you have a printer at work, well, hey, now look at you go. So I think Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro in general, is going to try and get more out of their products. And this is just the beginning to me. So I'm tentatively looking forward to some extra Planeswalker spicy Doritos.
I could see that, and I want this to be my take, but my buddy Louis came up with it, so he deserves the credit. He asked me, he put me on the spot. He goes, "What's the one product you want that would be Magic the Gathering themed?" And I was like, I just don't know. I don't have an answer off the top of my head. He put me on the spot on a podcast. I was like, I don't have the answer. And he goes, "It would be this. It's your phone case." He goes, "If you could have Jace or any on your phone case, that is easily achievable. It's something you can market to a bunch of people, and it's something that people are comfortable using to express themselves, right? You don't have to go above and beyond. People are already putting pictures on their phone case. Something like that would go a long way into driving revenue out for Magic the Gathering, for Wizards of the Coast, into their pocket, outside of just selling cards for Magic." I think that
Absolutely.
is the move.
Yeah, and with almost every set release, we see themed play mats. The
Yep.
Command Zone, yeah, they
Yeah.
show off in
They
their
debut
gameplay,
the play
yeah,
mats,
the
yeah.
whole thing. Now, to go along with that, since they have their app that they use, what if there was a cell phone case release with every release, and then boom, they show off their life counter, their app, and then they show the back of it. Hey, this is the release that came along with it for both our iPhones and our Androids. Jimmy, get that Android out of here. And Josh puts his hands on his hips. Yeah.
Oh,
It's so easy to market that idea. Come on, guys. What are you doing?
and it's something too where we have to remember that Wizards lives in a different world. And again, this might be more indie TCG babble coming over from that space, but Wizards lives in this different world where you would look at a company, you say, how could you feasibly do this? There's so many. Savannah Lions in chat makes a good point. There's too many different phones. There's so many different phone cases you can make. But Wizards is a company that would partner with something you look at like a D-Brand
Exactly.
or
Yeah,
something that
OtterBox
already
or
makes the
something.
phone
Yeah.
case,
Yeah.
OtterBox,
Yep.
because not only do they have the industry clout and the weight to throw around, but they can get an invite to that table, right? They
Right.
can get that sit down where other people couldn't.
Well,
So
that's exactly it. It's not like the Philadelphia Eagles make their own
make their
cell
own
phone.
hats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's not how this works. It's not like
Sure.
Wizards makes their own fucking cards. Like, let's be honest, they're not the ones printing them. Card Monday is. Like they're just an IP machine. That
Right.
It's just a totally separate thing. So it would actually be really easy to do, especially
Now-
because it's a print on demand product for more or less.
Yeah, I think you'd look at something like that, but man, I really think, and again, I wish that was my take. I love the keyboard and mouse. We talk about Magic the Gathering moving into the digital space in the last, 5 years, especially.
And
really
they're pushing
growing
more
in
and
that
more
digital
for it.
space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've said in their financials that they are investing more heavily into the arena experience to
There's
make
no reason not to. There's
it-
no reason not to.
they will lose money year after year, just like Xbox and PlayStation did when they sold their consoles at a loss in the beginning. Wizards is going to pump money into a losing machine until it does not lose. Is my thought on it. That's my very stern take. I'd like to.
Let me ask you then: does digital Magic lose Wizards money at the moment?
Yeah, probably.
I believe so, based on the financials. But it's hard. So I'd like to back up a few things. First off,
sure,
it's been easy to say what product do I want to see Magic on. I want a Liliana banana hammock.
Oh snap! I wonder if
I want to be
like,
on dibs on being on the podcast that week. Dibs,
yeah.
But
as Bob wears it. Yeah,
I think people are missing a greater point here with the broadening out into other markets with Hot Pockets and Love Sacks and so on. Even though, some content creators much bigger than us like to, try to make washer dryer jokes about it. But it's actually a fantastic thing for players. And people don't understand this, or at least they don't seem to understand it. Maybe they do and they just aren't voicing it. But if they're getting revenue from products outside of cardboard, right? That means if their bottom line goes up because they're selling Hot Pockets and Love Sacks and banana hammocks and whatever.
Yeah, licensing rights.
They are much less likely to have to continue to jack up the prices of the Magic cards themselves, though they're doing it anyways, bizarre enough. even at the time that they're outsourcing. So I mean, I think that there's something definitely going on behind the scenes. I think Rudy's right about that. That like there's much more going on behind the scenes here that just doesn't add up. And it's 2 and 2 equaling 14,000 squared, and there's something just not right. I think everybody can feel that on some level or another. And the problem with WotC, to go into where all this is problematic on all aspects of it, and even all the guessing that we're doing, poking in the dark, is that they're not transparent, and that is a huge problem. Flesh and Blood, at least, they up through Monarch, they released numbers. I hope they continue to do that. And I think as a company, WotC has the two biggest problems in my book have nothing to do with Magic 30 or curling foils or too many products, though all these, I think some of these are at least valid concerns. I think number one, the biggest problem is the reprints. Way too many, too fast. Reprints, not prints, reprints. They're absolutely destroying the value of anything. You're not giving it any time to breathe and catch back up again, and that will destroy the value. And everybody's like, "Oh, great, I can get my cards cheap." Well, you can't get your cards cheap and charge $400 a box. That just doesn't work out. The second thing, like I said, is the transparency, because nobody has any faith, has no idea how to make any, even, and this goes back to, I guess like the second, if you want to call it a bash on what you're doing. I only saw, maybe you have more numbers, but I only saw you bringing up TCG Player as the example, which is some data, but it doesn't include any of the data for the thousands of stores out there selling online, and their, charts may look very different from what you're seeing on TCG Player.
It is hard to get those numbers, though. Like, I doubt my LGS owner would be like, "Hey, this is what I'm doing lately, Pat."
Like, TCG is
love
not
it, Brad did, but
it's a good source, but it's not definitive. And I'm not bashing on you. I'm just saying that it's
no.
There's so much that we can't see. So the way that you would combat that is to get transparency from WotC itself. Like, James
you're
White,
never going to get that. You're never going to. WotC's never going to tell you.
Flesh and Blood did it.
And do you know how that went?
Yeah,
it went
right.
well for them.
I it did not.
Absolutely, it did.
No,
they had already tanked before they even really reduced the numbers, and it's still going down. But that arbitrage would have happened regardless of whether he released those numbers. But what it gives me as an investor is, hey, they're showing some transparency. He's given a plan. He didn't dodge anything. He took responsibility for making bad decisions, and this is what I plan to do to fix it. WotC only double speaks, fireside chat.
The second half of that didn't happen, though. That was the problem in Flesh and Blood. The first half happened. The first half, they said, hey, for Monarch, this was our print, and this is why we felt like we lost a bit of consumer confidence. We had our direct to a couple suppliers, straight from LSS to those suppliers, was not a great relationship. It wasn't great for the community. It wasn't great for other stores trying to carry and build the product. And then, like you've pointed out, you said at the start, you said, I hope they still do that. They completely stopped. Cold turkey. Because it went poorly. So I agree. If they would have taken that and said, hey, this was a mistake, this was have faith in us, we're looking to fix that mistake and move on, that would have been great. They didn't take that next step. That was the missing part. Now, there are devoted, as any small community, there are devoted people in that community that will swear that they know the creator personally and they made that change. And they will tell you that they heard him say it with his own lips. But if they're not willing to say it perfectly or publicly, in my mind, they haven't taken that next step. So it's still just a negative.
Oh, sorry. And I agree with that.
I get passionate
about that transparency, whether they did it right and completely, it was at least a step, right? We don't have numbers from WotC beyond Unlimited. No, Legends?
Sure, but
I can't remember the date.
You've also got 30 years of trusted success. I think it's more important for a game like Flesh and Blood or something like that, where
I think there's a lot of problems with trust in the last 3 years. I think they have taken what was established for 30 years and essentially is doing everything they can to erode that trust in the last 2 to 3 years.
Now, I've got a question, and this is open forum. Yeah, I've got a company here. They've been around for almost 100 years, let's say. And they've got a very established brand. Okay, let's say that they're a worldwide company. Their flagship characters are known like Santa Claus and McDonald's, right? They're known all over the world, and they come in new to the scene. Now they want to start making a trading card game, right? They want to expand their brand even more, not just from plushies and movies and stuff. They want to get into this new realm, right? Sure. Now we see a lot of brand degradation over long term. Like Magic the Gathering, it feels, is in a bad area right now. They've used a lot of their reserves. Now, if a new company comes in, let's say if Disney were to start making a trading card game. Now, how much could that impact their other brands? So if we start seeing something like Sully and Mike from Monsters Inc. start showing up and they're bashing each other over the head, and somebody pokes that big green guy's eye right out. Now, how's that going to affect their other brands? Magic the Gathering is so encapsulated. Now, we don't have that transition with Flesh and Blood, MetaZoo, Pokemon, maybe. Now, Pokemon trading card game was made just to sell their physical releases of their electronic games. Disney, I don't know. I wonder, are they going to do this in a positive cross-promotional way, or is it dangerous for their brand to start doing this?
So
I've
the
never
question
thought
is,
about it like that.
like Lorcana dropping, is it going to be positive or negative for the Disney brand overall?
Yeah.
I don't think it can be negative. And the reason I don't think it can be negative is let's imagine the worst case scenario for a Lorcana release. The worst case scenario for a release I can think of is let's just call it Monarch. It comes out, pre-sales boxes spike to $400-$500. It turns out most people are hoarding a lot of the product in back rooms. So, these companies are holding onto it to be released, thousands and thousands of boxes to be released later when they're claiming to be sold out. The community YOLOs in. They spend way too much on the product. The gameplay maybe takes a small hit, even though overall Flesh and Blood gameplay is always good. But let's say Lorcana gameplay takes an even bigger hit, and then it subsides. And instead of Flesh and Blood chugging on and making any rectification, it just dies. In that scenario, worst possible scenario for a Lorcana release, I don't see anybody who went through that experience who was already a Disney fan deciding now they're not a Disney fan. And I don't see somebody who went into that experience, kind of got there, having that bad experience saying, well, now I'm not watching Frozen 3 with my kids. I really think it's a safe play on their part.
It's an interesting take. I like that.
I see the reverse possibly happening. That the game takes a hit because Disney does some stupid nonsense. That could, the opposite could be true. I agree with Josh that it wouldn't be the brand, but yeah, people might not buy the card game because they're making decisions about laws in Florida and educating kids and blah blah blah. That could take a hit just because hate for Disney.
Sure,
but
that's actually a good point, because we saw that with Hogwarts Legacy, how much disdain there is for the comments that J.K. Rowling has made very publicly. That game had a very large boycott scene. Even though Hogwarts Legacy, their development was made completely separate from any influence from the author of those series. So I think that can be kept very separate. I don't know how the Lorcana gameplay is going to be. Nobody does at this point because it's still unreleased.
Let me ask you another question. Does it matter?
No.
To an extent, yes.
Well, it has to function, right? The game can't like have a common play pattern that breaks it. Yeah, right. Like it has to function. You have to be able to go back and forth. But as far as something that we expect from our company, like Wizards of the Coast and from Magic, we expect there to be a certain level of balance and interaction and back and forth. We've just come to, again, baked into 30 years, we've come to expect that on a release. It's no longer a question. With Lorcana, as long as they have that base level, I don't see that the gameplay makes that big of a difference.
I would actually agree. And people complaining already that it's not going to be Magic and it's going to be aimed at 8-year-olds, so it's going to be simplistic. I don't have a problem with a game being easier. Honestly, that Tulane deck I showed you, sometimes it pops off and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I've got so much going on the table. I was like, I just want to stop.
It's funny, So we were trying to get a game together the other night, and in our Discord, I had mentioned, let's see if I can remember all the triggers for Trelisara tonight. And Bob has specifically pointed out a number of times where he's like, oh, don't forget that counter.
Right.
And like, how often I have to say, oh, hey, there's an extra cascade on that, Matt. Like that kind of stuff. It's almost too complicated, especially if you're trying to make a deck. I had made this point with Bob earlier. I had seen 5 Narset decks. All like different versions of a Narset deck, but in one big long box. so he could play 5 different versions of it all, at any given time.
Kind of cool.
That's kind of cool, but that's also kind of ridiculous. Like, I don't know what banding does. Like,
Yeah.
what is flanking? Like,
Well,
honestly,
let me openly make a statement that I think we can probably. I mean, maybe I'll agree with that. I don't know. Commander's the most difficult way to play Magic the Gathering. Commander is 100% the hardest way to play my favorite game of all time. You have to keep track of so many things at every given time. Everything is a singleton.
Yeah,
right?
well, no, that's a really good point, because like, if it's a 60 card deck and there are 4 of the same thing in there,
That's
that
a
is
higher
way
percentage
easier.
of that
Yeah,
deck that once you've seen
yeah,
one, you know what the next does. The
like,
difference in Commander
yeah,
2
yeah.
is also metagames evolve around these, and not even just like I'm sweaty Pro Tour metagames, but your metagame of your locals for Pioneer or for Pauper, what decks people can afford, or for Modern, or the metagame of I know that people play Tier 2, I know what the Tier 2 decks are. Commander, to the extent of some bands, every single card and mechanic ever printed is available to you and your opponents. It's so much more difficult to keep track of. And my biggest trigger right now is people saying, well, this Commander Master set is going to bring in so many new players. No, it's not. That is the worst way to teach someone to play Magic is Commander. It's terrible.
Commander Rage. I disagree. Best way to teach people to play Magic.
Completely.
Seriously. Sorry,
completely
love it.
I'm just
Love
gonna
it.
fight with you all night. That's just all it's gonna be. No, I agree with
think
you.
that you make a really good point, though, Josh. Is that, and I've had to do this, and I know Bob has more than a few times. Like, I'm playing this card. Do you know what it does? Like,
Yeah.
when I play Spell Table, I have to use that lookup on the side, just because, like, no, I don't know what that card does. Like,
right.
I don't.
Well,
like, my
I
version
was
of the
just trying-
first sliver just says Cascade. Slivers have Cascade. Like, what does Cascade do? Like,
you
I have to
do a
pull
lot
up a
more of
Wikipedia.
this, grabbing your opponent's card and reading
it's
it,
like,
then putting it back.
Can I see that?
and
Like,
so-
what's that do? I don't know.
My whole point was that argument doesn't hold water for me. That Lorcana is going to be too simple. Magic players won't like it.
Yeah.
That's
you're
that's
right.
a very naive look at it, I think.
It's a gateway TCG.
If it is easy, look, honestly, you don't even say gateway. If you've ever played a game called Clank, I'm a big board gamer. Like, it's a simple game to kind of grasp the concept, hard to master. It's kind of like Go. There's freaking 2 colored chips on the table. It's hard to master, but easy to play. You don't have to really understand a lot of different things. So just because something has a simpler rule set and cleaner cards doesn't mean it's less fun to play, right?
Agreed.
It doesn't even mean it's necessarily less challenging to play, right? There are some very simple, like poker cards. There's only 52 of them. And Jesus, like, there's so many different games and different ways to play it. Chess, like, there's only so many pieces, way less pieces than Magic, and way less things you can do. But it takes supercomputers to beat human. Like, look, that's an inane argument to me that something that has more than 1 or 2 cards it's going to have 200 cards in the first set, right? It's going to be more complex than people think when you put the sum total together, right?
Sure.
That is it going to be a 30,000 card Magic library set right out of the gate? No.
No, and that's actually something I really like so far, looking down the pipeline for their roadmap, whatever you want to call it, is they're doing quarterly releases of 200 cards per set. That's a very
consistent.
Right. That's consistent. That's tempered. That's 800 cards a year. It's going to take them 30 years to get to where Magic's at right now. But more than that, if they don't start adding on more and more ancillary products, which I absolutely think they would. I didn't think of this until now when you had mentioned it during our conversation. But if you were to buy a new version of Frozen 5 or whatever, why wouldn't there be an exclusive Elsa card in there?
Well, because I think
their branding, it's so large that I think it has so many different possibilities. Yeah, as long as they don't screw it up real bad, they could make this a real big expansion into their line of products. Which
let's throw our tinfoil hats on real quick and get real speculative.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh, I'm known
because I think we've been told through a press release that we won't be seeing commercials for this on like Disney Plus and things of that nature, which
Oh,
leads me to believe that Ravensburg, and again, total speculation, no information here. It leads me to believe that Ravensburg has a deal or maybe a profit share on the Disney IP and license. And it's not a project that Disney owns, right? So because of that, I don't know if you'll see, I think the game would have to be successful for, n given amount of time before you see Frozen 3 with the Elsa promo card in it, or when Disney does a McDonald's release with a toy, you get a promo card or something like that. I think Disney's very happy to let this thing run, let it be a brand that grows itself and maybe brings more eyes to the Disney IP before it steps in and does something like that. Again, total speculation and guessing.
Well,
no, that's actually a really good point. That's something I never thought about is some of the licensing and branding part of the deal. Like we've seen with Hot Pockets, with Magic the Gathering. It's not like Magic the Gathering is making those Hot Pockets.
Right.
Now, we might be seeing the same thing here, where it's Ravensburger who has obtained a license to print these themed products. And it's not so much Disney side of it.
And it doesn't seem, if Disney's not willing to like out the gate, I think is the most time where you'd want to like your commercials running on Disney Plus and stuff for your initial release to really get this thing running. And if they're not doing it now, it to me screams, I'm content letting this thing exist in its own bubble, not putting any of our weight or effort or any risk behind it, and just saying,
until
if
it starts
out,
paying
great.
off. Yeah.
Exactly. And then maybe we lean into it or something like that. And even then, like if it's paying off and it's doing well and you have an IP license, Ravensburger has incentive to renew that license. And you can pretty much, if that's their only product in the TCG space, I know they do other things, you pretty much have carte blanche to negotiate that license how you see fit from Disney's standpoint. So like, yeah, I think it would be cool. My first TCG I ever played was the Dragon Ball Z card game. And like the McDonald's promos and stuff were sweet. Like it was awesome. I don't know if we see it here.
Oh, Bob, you look like you've got something to say.
It's okay. I'll let you guys finish.
I think that was the steam in my engine.
I don't know if you watched the video that, oh God, what's his name? Ryan Miller, I think is his name, the co-creator of Lorcana. He used to be a WotC employee. He was the chief designer of Magic 2013. He also worked on Duel Masters. At any rate, he in an interview with him over in Nuremberg, I think it was Nuremberg, at a recent show, one of the big Lorcana channels, big for what that means for Lorcana at this point on YouTube. He got an interview directly with him, and he talked to him about the relationship that they have with Disney.
Oh, cool.
Trying to get a feel for, how empirical is Disney, how hands off is Disney, and the relationship, as Ryan Miller described it, was absolutely fantastic and impressed me deeply. He said that when they're designing cards and when they're through this whole project, that Disney has very much worked hand in hand with them, not dictating to what they were doing, but had suggestions for improvements on the gameplay, potentially on the theme of cards, on the art direction for a card. He said they weren't dictating, but they were helping greatly with their staff of talented people and artists, giving them assistance with it. So yes, it is a license. It definitely is for Ravensburger. It's clear. It says it all over the place. That's not a hidden fact. However, a number of things. Number one, Disney is typically tight-fisted with most things, right? And in all honesty, when they're not behind something, they just shut it down, even if it's profitable. I can name a number of things that they shut down that were profitable, and they just said, nope, don't want to do it. And I wouldn't say that Disney would throw its weight behind a licensed product immediately. And there's no guarantee that they would give commercials in the future. I don't find that off-putting. And I do agree that they're basically saying, okay, Ravensburger, prove your stripes first, make something successful, and we'll see where the relationship goes from there. But here's the difference between Ravensburger owning the IP and Magic owning its own IP. At least there is a potential in the future to have advertisement on a TV channel. There is no Magic the Gathering or WotC or Hasbro TV channel. They have the potential of having promo cards at the gates at Disney World all over the world to entice people to come in, and people, hey, I've never heard, what's a TCG? And they get a free card, and then they start digging into it. Or they sell it in the Disney shops, which I could absolutely see that happening in the parks, that it's going to be far more recognizable when any show comes out and people see it on a Walmart shelf or in Amazon as it pops past as they're shopping for a DVD. And what's this what's this card game?
Mm.
Magic doesn't even have that because they're not going to accidentally look up Gideon. They're not going to accidentally find Phyrexia all will be one. You know, you have to specifically look for it.
Well, and
Disney,
also
all you
like
gotta
that,
do is do it, and they're gonna chance across Lorcana at some point that you don't have in any other card game except Pokemon. But even that's a bit more niche than Disney. So I think it's
100%.
just, you know, I think the they're incidental purchases, but the accidental purchases of grandpa, some chuckle nuts at Walmart just buying it, putting in his cart because his kid loves freaking Peter Pan, is going to sell millions of packs, like millions. They don't have to take a single Magic the Gathering player. So the gameplay, to your point, really is almost inconsequential because of just how big Disney is.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to have accidental sales. They could accidentally sell more packs in a year than Magic sells. Just accidentally.
Well, let us know down in the comment section if you're
buying a game. What I mean by accidental, people that don't understand TCGs, and if they're selling them in the Disney stores, in the parks, if they're Disney on the shelf in Walmart, and you're going to tell me that, you know, like even those distributors, if you don't think like the Disney products are going to take top shelf, the premier spots on a shelf, I sold one, and let me tell you, your most recognizable brands get the eye level shelf. Right,
100%. This instantly comes out, and I've talked about this before. This instantly comes out as a warning shot, if not more, to the indie TCG industry. Like Magic and Pokemon, listen, you've got so much community devotion there, such a long-running history. I don't think those games are in danger of taking any real hit from the.
But what about like the MetaZoo and the Cryptic you've got behind
the MetaZoo, the Cryptic, the Flesh and Blood? These. Yeah. I said it on another podcast. Lorcana will pull spend. And I think you guys agree with me. Lorcana will pull spend from wide across the entire indie TCG industry.
And some of the mainline ones too.
Yeah, honestly, what Bob said is right. It's going to get the best opportunity. It's going to get top shelf the day it releases for no other reason than the Disney stamp that someone slapped on.
And it, you know, part of the discussion Bob and I had earlier, kind of to surmise some of it, wasn't so much that Lorcana is going to take Magic players. I don't think that's going to happen en masse. I do think they're going to take Magic money. I think that's where it's going to be. Yeah. Like I said, I'm going to Gen Con 2023, right when Commander Masters is going to come out. Now, with that extra $350, I can put a thing of Lorcana in my briefcase when I go home. Now, that is something that interests me far more than getting something on release, a $419 set box of that, the draft box, $300 plus.
Sure.
That's not as interesting as $300 worth of Lorcana. With its first chapter release, I think that no matter what, they are going to at least do a couple of sets. No matter what, they have to do bad enough for a while.
They have an agreement for 4 sets, right? Bob, you seem to know a lot more about their agreement. They're behind the scenes. I thought it was they had an agreement for 4 sets already, right?
I don't know about agreement. They didn't specify agreement. Then I doubt they would even be able to do that. A lot of what they were saying, especially in the interview, was they have huge NDAs. Half of what the questions were behind NDAs. But what they did say is they have at least the first 4 sets planned out.
Do
they expect to be in the market to support it for years to come, was their statement. So I don't I hate quoting things. As a matter of fact, I got kind of shot down by Pat today, the topic I wanted to talk about, because he said you were coming on. I'm like, all right, we'll make it. We'll put the kid gloves on then.
What's the topic? Bring it on.
Nope, you don't get it. Sorry, not tonight.
You'll have to
drag me into that rat hole.
Yeah, you'll have to come back another week for that one, Josh.
I want you to come back again. I don't want to scare you off.
And on that note, this has been really fun. I've enjoyed the back and forth, and your pacing conversationally is very good. I can tell that you definitely polished some of your skills as far as podcasting and live content creation. So I really expect to see your channel do really well because you are doing really well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Listen, I'm addicted to the metrics right now. Just like you guys, I've got a whole new thumbnail, title strategies, trying to do all that. So I expect to see the same from you guys. I did my homework. I watched a little bit and I was like, I like these conversations. I'm into this.
Thank you.
And if I'm into it, there's got to be. I've always said if I make content that I'm into, Someone
That's
else
the
has
thing.
got to be
That was
into it,
actually
right?
Pikachu's advice. He said,
Yeah.
what did he? I think you remember it better than I think you've quoted it a couple of times, Pat.
Make
About
content that you would want to consume. If it's not enjoyable, why would and not to call anybody out, but I've been on podcasts. I get around a bit on the internet here. I've made content with people that I would never want to watch, that I've never gone back and watched. It was a conversation for throwaway. Whereas my podcast here with Bob, we've gone back and I've made shorts of it. I've taken 5-10 minute chunks because there are just great conversations that we have. And we get some pretty decent viewership. I mean, I'm over 1,000 subs. Bob's in 700 now, I think. I mean,
our problem is we don't give a shit about metrics and all that stuff on my channel.
Oh, you got to get addicted,
No,
dude.
here's the thing: is I don't care. Like this,
such a carrot to chase.
I'm Nikachu's like, you should be so much bigger, is what he told me.
Yeah,
was confused.
same.
Like, but I'm the nomad, right? I've been on a bunch of different podcasts, and that's what I enjoy. This is what I'm best at, right? And this does not necessarily, when you're on somebody else's channel, boost your viewership and subscriptions on your own channel, right? It might help Pat's channel, but it doesn't do shit for mine. And it's not. I'm not going to help your channel in this. So I appreciate you being here. But I enjoy this the most, right? This is when I'm most engaged. This is when I'm thinking the most. This is God bless Sherry Vegas, because she listens to me babble about magic and blah 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 blah. And she could give two farts, right? And I enjoy this because when I say things about Lorcana or magic or this, even if it's like we're at odds, I'm more alive. I enjoy it more. This is I hope viewers watch this if they're more engaged and listening. F Bob or F Josh, or they're both wrong.
Pat's dumb. God,
dude, you got it. Some of the comments they just keep you going, and they're so much fun. I had a guy in the comment, or I had a human in the comment section. It was this week. Was like, you walk around and market yourself as a Magic player, but you don't play Magic, and I'm like, no, I really do. He goes, just look at the shelf behind you. I'm like, this doesn't mean I don't play Magic. This just means I have been doing this for a long time, and I stack stuff on top of one another. That does nothing. Oh, I know you don't play Magic. Okay, I guess you know me. You got it.
Well, that's one of the things that a couple of content creators have told me specifically is once you start getting trolls, that's how you know you made it.
Dude, I'm riding high then.
Because they watch every video, they comment all the time. If you comment, they'll comment back. Some of my freaking patrons don't even play that game. Like, they don't watch every video. A troll, they watch it from beginning to end. They'll comment, you comment, they comment back. Like, that is such huge support. They don't realize it. And you can just hide their comments so that like YouTube picks up on the algorithm, still it counts it, but other people don't see it. So it's like, just hide the users. Yeah.
I got the best group of patrons because I pivoted off Flesh and Blood, and I had a good portion leave, but a lot have just stuck around just for me, for the conversation, for the community. Like that is real in these TCG industries, in these communities that we build. Like that is 100% real.
And there is also, as far as like the creator side of it, a worry of niching down a bit too much.
Yeah, like that. That's one of the things that bothers me the most.
Listen, there's a reason I don't make fab content.
Parts. I make good money, 9 to 5. So this is a passion project that I just early on when I started about 2 years ago. I noticed we were about the same time as YouTube content creators, and I almost stopped in the first 2 months because I'm like, the pace is brutal. It's not genuine. If you watch my first videos, they're awful. I'm like, God, I bore myself.
Everybody's
and it was just bad. It wasn't genuine. And I realized, oh shit, I need somebody to talk to. I need somebody else to bring that out of me. That's not me, right?
Yeah.
It's on there. It's not that I was trying to be different. It's just talking to a camera with nobody else feeding back, and the conversation's flat. And blah.
Yeah.
Like, all right, this is. It sounds like I'm reading a telephone book.
And then I've seen it in Josh's videos. Same thing with me, where you have to talk for 12 minutes, and you can't not talk. So it's
you can't take a break.
Yeah. So it's like sometimes like you have to do a quick and then talk for a while. Like take a big suck in a breath, or like, okay, look at this. And then you have like 3 seconds of pause. It's like, I just need to.
Well, that's my big weakness is I don't cut that stuff, and I talk too much and too fast. So I find myself having to take breaths at inopportune moments. And I'm like, It's straight unscripted content. I don't want to start cutting those because then people are going to be like, well, what are you not showing me? Right.
Yeah. And it's just
I
easier
just don't want to
too.
care about any of that stuff. You get pure
Yeah.
unfiltered Bob everywhere, and then you know what? Deal with it.
Yeah.
Listen, you get unfiltered me in my content. I give my real takes. I said Commander Masters will be one of the best-selling sets of all time. I said it, like, but at the same time, I'm also chasing the carrot, man. I'm chasing the carrot.
Yeah.
I want to see it. Honestly, I think if you want, I think probably if I had to pick one best selling of all time in the end, I'm actually to date probably going to pick Modern Horizons 2. I mean, that thing is just a beast.
You just picked the leader of the race. I think Modern Horizons 2 currently is the best-selling Magic set.
I didn't even look. I didn't know. I'm just picking it based off of
it's very bold of you to pick the leader of the race.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was the leader of the race. Sorry.
Hey, that car in first place, I think it's going to win.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know that? I haven't looked at the numbers. Is it really?
I'm just giving you a hard time. I think it is. I think it is.
Like, it would make sense.
It's definitely the most printed.
Yeah, they've had so many reprint waves.
Well, I don't know. I think Commander Legends might be getting close. Commander Legends 1.
Jeez, it's certainly gonna stop now. Oh, yeah. We also haven't seen what else, and I'm gonna hit on that note again. The rest of the set list for Commander Masters. If we start seeing some of the staples from Modern Horizons 2 reprinted again, well, shit, there goes that box value. Same thing. Like those just are going to stop selling.
I don't think you're going to have very many. I don't think you're going to have very many. You said Modern Horizons?
Yeah.
No, I don't think you're going to have very many Modern Horizons. I'm fearful that they're going to reprint that in the Lord of the Rings set, because if that happens, that's going to be rough. I would expect to see the elementals printed in that, and I think that's going to that's problematic.
Yeah,
I think the Lord of the Rings set, you see the rest of the fetch lands find a reprint in Lord of the Rings.
Now, see, I also pointed this out. Like when you started your channel, it was all fetch lands all the time. That's all that anybody cared about. Professors saying over and over again about how they
reprint the fetch land.
They're not
reprint the fetch lands,
right?
Yeah.
Like he was talking about that. You reprinted it in Zendikar Rising, but that's not a meaningful way. And these what do they call the expeditions and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's not meaningful. Well, they listened, folks, and now nobody talks about fetch lands, right?
And there's more than enough availability.
$5 a piece, nobody cares, right? So that's what happens when you push WotC and say, "Fine, this is how they respond." And now nobody gets excited about pulling fetch lands anymore. It was all that.
Well, nobody gets excited about pulling your base level fetch lands, and this is where, again, one of my things that I do in my channel is I like to anger my comment section. So I'm going to anger your guys' comment section right now and mention I think WotC gets credit here. They did a good job with the idea that you can have a $30 to $40 version of Misty Rainforest if that's your game. If you're balling in that region, if you like that bling, you can have that product. Or if you're a player that wants an $11 to $13 version of the card, you can have that too, right? I think they do a good job of giving stuff for I want to build the cheapest deck possible. I'm all player. I'm on that I have the idea of the player collector spectrum. Nobody is all player and nobody is all collector. Everyone falls somewhere in this realm. If you fall on that end, you have a product for you. If you fall on the other far end, there's a product for you as well. And what that does is everything in between, man, just feels like it doesn't have a home from time to time. But do you think they deserve credit for that?
No.
Really?
They overprinted it. Yep. 100%.
You think so? Okay.
Absolutely.
You overprinted the special version or the regular version or all versions?
Regular version. All versions. Okay. There's just too many of them because, first of all, to get the special version, your price point is
bounce
still way
lands
high.
at like 40 cents. This is ridiculous.
Well, they're a common, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right? Are you saying they're too expensive?
No, that's cheap.
No, they're a common.
And they're terrible. I rip them out of every precon as soon as I can.
Oh, Amulet Titan players everywhere just moaned.
What is Amulet Titan? I don't know what that means.
It's a modern deck that plays bounce lands and combos into Valakut.
No, that was a joke. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Listen. I don't assume your knowledge. If you ask a question, I'll just answer it and do my best.
I was joking because that's not a commander thing. And
no,
I don't really care about any other format besides Commander Raids, quite frankly.
I don't. So niche formats. I don't want to derail us further, but I fell in love with the Rush format.
Ooh,
have you
what's
played
that?
Rush?
I heard about that, but I don't even know what it is.
Oh, tell me more.
I really don't know what Rush is.
It is so much fun. You draw a new hand at the start of every turn. So like at the start of your turn, you put to the bottom of your deck your hand, you redraw
Oh,
up
it's a
your
fairies
hand.
puzzle box every time.
Yeah, and you play Magic in this way. So it's only on your turn. The Mulligan rules are slightly different. I think it's a 10 life format. Certain things are banned. But the best way to play it is I'd opened a box or two of like
I
Zendikar
bet
Rising
counter players
set.
hate that. Control players probably hate that.
No, but I mean, listen, you can counter stuff and then draw into more control. The best way to play it, though, in my opinion, is to take decks, your commons and uncommons, pile them out, shuffle them all together, and give someone 40 commons and 20 uncommons, and be like, you get to build a deck. It's a 40 card deck, and you get to build a deck.
The archetypes for control and discard decks are all about
you can't play
card
discard
advantage and making them lose their card advantage. So if they get their card advantage back, or equalize it every turn, it's like, well, that was kind of pointless.
But because it's a smaller deck and things are cycling through, when you remove every meaningful threat from the deck, which you can do so in a quicker fashion playing control, you then take your 2/2, made off of Doom Foretold, your 2/2 Vigilance Knight, and you just get in there 5 times when they got nothing left to do. Right. So you have to play. You're right. You have to play it differently, but you can do it. And the best way to do it, man, try it out. I think there's some videos online, and I think there's a Discord dedicated to it. It was super fun.
Huh.
Super fast paced. It was really fun.
Yeah, it's always interesting to like open up to new game concepts. I've been playing some games with my LGS owner, and since he has, all sorts of different board games, he's a real big fan into that. Just seeing different ways that systems can work. And since we're making a new format, it's really nice to have all these different options and try and figure out ways that can be jerry-rigged and used in a completely different manner that can function. Like it's so many different possibilities. And that's why I'm so interested in what Lorcana is doing, because they're going to bring a whole new set of systems as well. And also the investable, collectible side of it, along with their play structure, is very interesting. So I think it's a great time for TCGs in general, and it might be, I think, one of the worst times for Magic.
I agree. But I'll say this, it's funny, since we created Commander Raid.
No, I just mean for like all the products they're putting out, Josh, as far as that confused look. I think we're having, more and more sets coming out.
I don't know.
Ooh, yeah.
Listen, man, I'm Captain Positivity, and I get it. I'm often wrong, but like, if we can learn to truly listen, not every product's for us, and we have to. I don't agree with that way of printing, but that's the way it is. And if we can lean, it's a big goal of myself on the channel for 2023 is giving consumer data, seeing where we're spending our money, what we like as a community, so we can kind of buy with a little bit more confidence. Yeah. If we can figure that out, man, there's beauty in that rapid release cycle. If you can get something and then let the next two things go, and buy something and then let the next two things go.
No,
we're not trained to do that. We don't do it.
Here's the thing: is that requires people. You have a lot of enfranchised players, right? You have a lot of people that have been around, like you said, it's established 30 years. Sort of the beauty. That's the hook for Magic. And by changing the game, and I don't mean the rules, I mean the game of buying and the routines and whatnot. When you did you ever watch Contact? Movie Contact?
No, with Jodie Foster. Yeah.
So as part of it, the father's trying, and it's like the 80s or whatever. The father's trying to teach his daughter, she's like 8 or 9 or whatever, working with a ham radio. You know what that is?
Yep.
Okay. So she's like 8 or 9 trying to learn ham radio, and she's like trying to tune somebody in, but she's like moving the dial too fast, right? Yeah. Too big of a change one way or the other. He says, small moves. I think her name was Ellie. He says, small moves, Ellie. Small moves give you bigger results, essentially. And I think that what Magic has done is they're taking that knob and they're just, cranking that joker in both directions really hard. Yeah. What I mean is they're changing the way that they've done things for 30 years so much that they're disenfranchising. One of the things that they've killed, in my opinion, in the last 3 years successfully, due to variance alone, which we haven't even touched on, is set collecting. Like, that used to be a big thing for a long, long time. I haven't heard anybody really talk about set collecting.
Yeah, besides Ashen Wings, but he's a crazy man.
And I think honestly, all he's doing is flesh. Yeah. All he's doing is flesh and blood anymore. Actually, he plans to meet us. I think he committed to coming to Gen Con. Are you going to Gen Con, Josh? You nod your head and raise your hands, but
with the new baby, it's on the table. I think I got
Don't
to
put your
choose
baby
like
on the table. That's a terrible
Ah.
choice.
Actually,
she was
no.
on the table
Sometimes
when
for
I fed her
change,
bananas the other day.
Let's-
It was
yeah.
great.
Actually, where do you live, Josh? If you don't mind me asking.
Whoa. Okay, my
Yeah,
I'm not
address
saying like
and social
this.
security
Yeah.
number, please.
At what time are you away from your home? Yeah.
Listen, leave these shelves
Yeah.
alone. This was hard work.
No. I'm in the Northeast. I live up in Vermont. So for
Okay.
me,
I'm
I'm
in the
gonna like
Chicagoland
fly.
area.
Yeah.
Oh,
So like
dude,
I'm
you're not
gonna.
far from Gen Con. Then.
No.
What are you talking about?
No, I
It's a
road
day
trip.
trip.
The guy in the chat earlier, shout out Mo Bogsley, popped in the chat for a while. I road trip to Indianapolis with him for a Flesh and Blood event once, so
Oh,
I'm
nice.
familiar with the drive.
Yeah.
So yeah, it
Oh.
shouldn't like what 3-4 hour trip for you.
I think it's closer to 4 or 5, but I think that's just because there's no way to leave and avoid traffic.
Yeah, I'm in the Cleveland area, so
Okay,
it's like
Okay.
4.5 hours for me out there. But yeah, I mean, we're
Yeah.
going to be down there. You know, but I can tell you on day one, early in the morning, you're not going to get a hold of me because I'm going to be booking it straight to the Lorcana booth. No joke.
What I have friends that are going, and I've said, hey, if you want to buy me some Lorcana boxes and get in that line, I said, I'll because they're like, I don't want that. I'm like, buy them and I'll pay you.
Yeah.
That's definitely my plan. I spoke to my daughter tonight when we were going out to pick up dinner, and I'm like, hey, I'm using it 'cause she's going with me. I'm like, you know, I'm going to give you my credit card. I'm going to buy everything I can, and you get in line and buy everything you can.
And
Yeah.
so are
Like,
you.
right
And
behind.
Yeah.
that's going to be
That's pretty much
But
where
I
I'm
think,
at as
you know,
well.
I think there's so much call for it. There's so much clamor. There's so much hype around
Mhm.
it. I think it can't help but succeed on the initial launch, no matter
Yeah.
what. I really see
Yep.
the initial launch being just a sellout. And the problem
Yep.
with that is I think that you're going to have limitations on what you're allowed to buy, even at
Yeah.
LGS's. Like that's one of my biggest fears is it's probably going to be an initial release, probably going to be like most initial releases for most CCGs, where it's going to be a conservative number because
Limited
they
quantity.
want to
Yeah.
sell it out, right?
Yeah.
It's not as much about reach, making sure okay, let's hit every nook and cranny in
Mhm.
Alaska. You know, it's like let's make sure that we sell expectedly.
Yeah.
Sure. Distribution, I believe, has confirmed it's coming in waves, right? And the first wave of product is so widely desired by game stores that they have informed even their biggest spending stores that it will be tightly allocated. So we got, you know, even stores, something like MinMax, when a new Magic set comes out, it's a blank check. They're like, give me as much as I can because I have the consumer and player base and community to unload it. Even those stores are going to be like, hey, you're tightly allocated on stuff like this.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be the biggest problem with this. And you know what? For the success and health of the game, cool. Even if I miss out on a personal opportunity, I'm sure we're going to be able to get some at Gen Con. You know,
Yeah.
You'll be able to get some.
That's going to be my first stop, first day.
Well,
Well,
yeah, I think wave 2
hope
will hit and be okay.
I mean, my big hope, my dream on it is that we get something exclusive at the event. That's my big thing because
I hope so.
You know, they did a previous expo kind of thing, and that's where some of the cards that are currently on market are from, and they're you know, thousands of dollars for those. For some of
those are cool collector pieces. That was what was that event where they had the 6 cards that you could collect?
Disney Expo, I think.
D23.
Yeah, D23. Thanks. Great call, Bob. Yeah, D23.
So I think
I'm
go ahead.
Just gonna toss this out there. You know, if you can make it work for even a day trip, you know, come on down and meet Pat and Matt and I. And I think Lance is going to be there from Cothern Cards, and at least for a day. And so is Alex. I think he's planning on being there for a couple of days from Ashlings. We're hoping to get as many people as we can, and maybe even make it a recurring thing. I love Gen Con.
If I can, listen, I'll be there. That would be sweet.
Yeah, please do. But even if not, please, you know, hook up with us, and you're welcome to broadcast it. We don't care. You know, we're not trying to tight fist, you know, the Commander Raids format. And if you enjoy it and you want to make a video or live broadcast it, you know, fine, by all means, please do. You know,
absolutely. Hey, listen, watching me fumble through a game of Commander is always exciting.
Dude, we'll help you. We'll tell you missed that.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't work that way. And then you can explain to me how Wheel of Misfortune works.
Yeah, right.
Have you ever read that card? That is the most confusing Magic card.
Just so much text. Oh my god!
I'm about to say it's a book.
Everybody choose a number 0, and those that didn't choose 0 or greater, and then you discard your hand or take damage, or I don't know. There's some
that was Commander Legends 1, right?
Yeah, dude, I hate that card.
I opened that card and I was like, "What is happening?
Yeah, I can't wait to get rid of this. Yeah.
I can't wait to cast this and turn and look and go." Resolve it for me.
It was like, oh, where the hell is that card? Do you know what card I'm about to show? The one I took out of my deck, because I'm like, all right, F that card for the first time it made my deck.
Oh,
Damn it, I don't think I have it handy.
I was playing a lot of
Oh, here it is.
standard during Throne with Lovestruck Beast, and that was a wall of text.
Crystalline Golem.
Crystalline Giant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Crystalline
F
Giant,
this
yeah.
card. I'm never playing this again in person.
It's got so many words, and it's so difficult to actually do because you have to keep rolling, and it's just so many tokens and not really worth it
This
in
is
the
a
end.
nightmare to track in a
In
game.
Ikoria, you got ability counters that you could pop out that had all the little abilities on it.
Yeah.
No, that
I
card's
use them.
that card's such a pain to figure. What dice
Yeah.
do I roll to resolve this stupid thing?
Dude,
Yeah.
I have an entire box full of 3D printed tokens that have all the keywords on it, but even still fumbling through this and tracking. I'm like,
Yeah,
Jesus,
yeah.
this is like playing a dungeon, you know?
Yeah. It's wild.
Like the dungeon cards, I hate them because they're just like, oh Jesus, you got to track. It's like, all right, you took 10 minutes to return. I
Dungeon
hate 10
mechanic
turn.
not super popular.
Bad
Well,
mechanic, dude.
Speaking of having to track things, I know Josh is a new father, so there's a lot of stuff he has to keep track of. So I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you've got babies to change and diapers to take care of, lots of formula to cook up. So I really
Would
just
you
want
say
to say
Josh has
thank you
baby
again.
duty?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I think I
Specifically-
love baby duty.
Yeah.
She pooped on me the day she was born. She's like, hey, you want to be a dad? Welcome to it.
Yeah, this is what you're getting. Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope all my offensive questions and statements haven't turned you off to wanting to come back at some point, and I would love to have you again. Giggity.
Not at all. This has been a blast. I appreciate you guys more than you can imagine. This has been such a fun conversation. You haven't said anything yet that'll scare me off. When we talk offline, we'll go over
the
airing
we'll see how
of
that works
grievances.
out. Well, hey, until next time. I've been Pat the Pauper. This has been Josh and Bob from Pure MTG. So thank you everybody for tuning in. If there's anything you want us to hit on for next week, just put it down in the comment section below. Until then, take care, be well.